Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful?
Hi, I'm Jimmy and I'm an addict. The first step to your heart's to admit it.
Multi-award nominated singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, designer. Oh my goodness, the list goes on and on. Jimmy Nevis is in the house, everybody. Make some noise.
The house phone in Athlone, I get a call from a record label in Joburg, and they're like, "Can we speak to Jimmy Nevis?" And I'm like, "Oh, just hold on." And I'm like, "Hi, how's it? Yo, it's Jimmy." Like whatever. But like meanwhile, I'm like, I don't know what is going on. How did you get my house number? It's amazing when you realize that there's people that could see things in you that you couldn't see in yourself.
Something else that fascinates me is the creative process. What's your creative process?
First of all, when it comes to the music side, I'm
Jimmy,
yeah.
what was the kitchen like that you were cooked in growing up?
Ooh. I grew up in a very spiritual home in Athlone, and my dad was a pastor, and especially during that time, I think the community, if you are a pastoral family, like your house is like, it's like the community's house. So we always had lots of people in there. My mom was always cooking. My dad was always, anytime somebody they get a new car or a new house or whatever, my dad comes and he prays over whatever. So, I knew a lot of people growing up. The youth used to stay over at our place a lot. We used to do a lot of stay awakes because my parents were youth leaders before my dad became an official pastor. So everything that we grew up around was very much around community and people. And I also grew up, I guess, in a privileged home in the sense, we had like internet and a computer. And so a lot of CVs were typed on that computer. A lot of youth members came to study at our place. When we got a pool at one point, I can't even make this up. Like I remember during school holidays, and I'm like in grade 11 or something, I'm there to sleep late on a school holiday, and there's just this knock at the door, and you open the front door, and I kid you not, there's probably like 25 to 30 children that have just walked with their costumes and everything, being like, "Is Pastor here? Is your daddy home?" And I'm like, bruh, like, and you can't even tell them no sometimes because you're just like, you are dressed up in your, they've walked so far and they're ready to swim now. And so that's the home that I grew up in, where it was just come as you are. And I think my dad was very big on community and sharing, and what's ours is yours kind of thing.
And you define it as a spiritual background. How did that kind of like I would say the word I like to use is influence your beliefs of how you view the world, and do those still kind of carry on till now?
Yeah, every morning when I wake up, I get woken up by the sound of like hill songs or something playing way too loud on the TV. That was how we used to wake up for school. We were at church like 5 times a week, like very active. I was part of different committees and groups, from like obviously singing, praise and worship team, the youth group. I was a youth leader. And it was amazing. I cannot tell you what that type of cultural experience was like. It was just, it came with its own jokes, its own food, its own vibe, its own energy. And it taught me a lot, I think, about connecting outside of myself. I think when worship is the first like sense of music that gets introduced to you, it immediately feels a lot bigger than the love song that you're hearing on the radio. And so I find it quite funny that even though I went into secular music, I always feel like my music is much bigger than what somebody may think. Because for me, that's how I view it. That's my sense of it. But yeah, I think having those type of beliefs, growing up in a Christian home, I mean, there's many sides to it. On the one hand, it was a bit difficult, when you had your own beliefs or something that was going against, and even in the smallest of ways, even just wanting to wear something different to church, because we were very conservative. You had to dress a certain way, and I was there trying to prove my case. I want to wear my Vans to church, and it was an issue, I think of my sister like not always wanting to wear this dress to church, and us having to navigate that growing up.
I see that the not conforming started from a young age.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's because maybe this is also quite a general question, but people who don't conform are it's as a result of being in a strict home growing up?
I think so. I think that I don't even think you mean to not conform. I don't think you mean to be labeled as rebellious or something. It's just you trying to find your path. And I think sometimes there's a lot of religious systems or even families or communities come with their own type of restrictions and rules. And, when you're younger, you're inquisitive, you want to try things, you want to go out. We never went to the movies when we were younger. Like, I didn't even really know a lot of music outside of gospel music until I was like nearing high school, So my experience was also quite in its own bubble. And, outside of school, it's church. And when you're to school holidays, you are doing church camps. So it was just constant. And I wouldn't change it. I loved it for what it was. And I learned a lot about God and a lot about myself. And I think it was the perfect workings for what would come later on in life, in me kind of creating my own path.
At what point were you then able to kind of like create your own path? Was it, high school?
I think so. I think in high school, my parents were always supportive of the singing thing. And my dad especially, I mean, I think to this day, my dad's like my number one fan. And in high school, I was a big kid. I didn't have the confidence, like my best friends didn't even know I could sing. I was just like, don't look at me, keep me under wraps, And my dad sent me to this music school in Brackenfell, actually, the Rihanna van Wyk Music School, with the number one aim of trying to build my confidence. And it worked. I was singing at hypermarket competitions, in and around the northern suburbs. And I think very soon after that, when I was in grade 10, I started writing a lot of my own songs. I had a songbook. I used to walk around with at school. I used to spend my break times playing on the piano. And the more and more I did that, the more people would kind of gravitate towards me. And then there was this cabaret group at high school, which is like our glee club. And I think my self-esteem was so bad back then because I had just gotten the confidence to audition, but immediately I was like, I'm never going to get this. Like, I didn't even like, like sometimes you're like nervous afterwards because you're like, wait, maybe there's a chance. Like, there was just no chance. I was like, I'm going home now, like, And then I made it into this club and they were like, you're going to sing at the next assembly and you're going to do Isn't She Lovely and you're going to sing the lead. And I was like, okay. And that assembly came and the group is behind me and I'm singing, isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? And after that assembly, my entire life changed. Like, literally like thousands of kids came running towards me. I mean, I had people who used to bully me were even like, yo, I didn't know you could sing, like, yo,
Wow.
you know. And it was like, it was such a click for me in my mind, because I was like, wow, this thing that I was hiding for so long, and I was really trying to not let people see, because I was so embarrassed, and I was trying to make it perfect, and I was, you know, it was actually my way out, you know, it was my way into a different life. And soon after that, my confidence was like through the roof. And I found a really great group of friends at school. And yeah. And I must be honest, in grade 8 and 9, my high school experience was, I hated it. I didn't feel like I ever fit in. And fast forward to the latter part of that, it was the best years of my life, you know, like community, people, authenticity, and really, really like honing into my craft as my own musician. I also grew up being able to play by ear. My sister as well. My sister taught me piano. She's an amazing pianist. And yeah, in high school, you know, you're also prepping now for varsity, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to try music and do this thing. And I told my music teacher, like, I need you to teach me, like, you know, the classical stuff, because like I need this to study further and whatever. And he told me, and he was like, I can't teach you this because it's going to ruin your natural talent. And I was just like, no, you're taking this away from me. And it was 2 years after high school that I became Jimmy Nevis. And it was based off of that rawness, I guess, of, or for me, when I look at it, it's amazing when you realize that there's people that could see things in you that you couldn't see in yourself. And even I often think of that teacher who was like, I'm not gonna do that, because you have something that you need to share with the world that's yours.
I just got goosebumps when you said that.
No, man, it's amazing, because at the time I couldn't see it. I was like, you are taking opportunities away from me by not teaching me. You literally are my music teacher. Teach me. And it wasn't even 2 years later. And I mean, songs like Elephant Shoes and Hotboxing, I mean, I recorded that in my bedroom. And I produced it myself. And
that experience, you think that was kind of like the turning point for you to actually believe that you could, you know, make this a profession?
You know, I think after high school, I was so revved up. I mean, I think it was while I was still in matric, I was already getting booked for like tribute shows. I took part in this tribute show at Grand West, where I had to, you know, act like Prince and wear a wig and like, you know, like some really crazy stuff, you know, full on choreography, by the way, which I killed. But I was like 100% sure I was going to get into like UCT School of Music, and like this is, you know, this surely is the thing for me. And I didn't get in for UCT School of Music, but I got in for my second option, which was BSOC at UCT. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, you know, I'm going to be a great sociologist. Or whatever else. I'm going to take it as it comes. And I did my thing. And on the side, I was still doing like tribute shows here and there, studio sessions, trying to network, trying to write. But, you know, I was also very focused on like, I think earning money and being able to really put my feelers out there, because I wasn't always interested in partying, and that was never really my scene. Like I was always looking to catch a flight, you know. I had very little experience with flying at the time, and my dream was to fly a lot. That was like one of my, I wasn't sure what it was connected to, but I just knew whatever I was doing, I wanted to be in the air. Before that first song blew up, which was Elephant Shoes, I remember telling God, I was like, I'm kind of close to giving up on this now. So if this is meant to happen, it must happen. But if not, then, you know, I think there's a time where you get cut full of your dream. And it's almost like, you're like, okay, cool. I'm doing everything I can now. If this doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then I know I need to move in a different direction. And I wrote the song Elephant Shoes, and I remember I was lumming in my room and I had two friends with me, and I'm singing the song for them. I'm like, oh, I wrote this other day. And my one friend's like, yo, can you play it again? And I was like, sure. So I sing it again, and they're like, can you play it again? And I'd never heard my friends ask me to do that before, like to play some of my songs for them over and over and over again, because I just loved it that much. And so I was like, okay, cool, you know what, here's something. And I produced it, had it mixed and mastered by some guy in Mitchell's Plain who did the greatest job.
Shout out to Mitchell's Plain.
Shout out to Mitchell's Plain, yeah. And and then I basically wrote about myself in third person, printed it, made some copies on a CD, because that's what we did at that time. And then my friend and I, we just, thank God for Google, we found all the Cape Town stations and we just dropped it off ourselves, and we were like, oh, check out Jimmy Nevis, like whatever. But it was such a out-of-body experience. It was also like on our way to something else, man. Like it wasn't like always at the center of everything. It was kind of like, I think at that point I was like, if I get a lead, I'll take it, but we're gonna go for lunch now, so like let's drop this off, And 2 weeks later I got a call from KFM, and they were like, they love the song, they're gonna play the song. And I was like, oh my God, amazing. And then a week after that, somebody else was like, oh, I heard this song in another station. And then there was like almost like WhatsApp videos going around of me singing the song, and it was like an offline viral moment, essentially. And I think I submitted it just like through a normal channel on 5FM, and then it was playing on 5FM, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I think I need to start a Facebook page, because I was like so not equipped with social media. So I started a Facebook page, and then randomly to the house phone in Athlone, I get a call from a record label in Joburg, and they're like, can we speak to Jimmy Nevis? And I'm like, oh, just hold on. And I'm like, hi, how's it? Yo, it's Jimmy, like whatever. But like meanwhile, I'm like, I don't know what is going on. How did you get my house number? It's also crazy. And it was a time of magic. And to me, I look back on it and I see that was a God moment. It was a moment that was beyond my control. It was a moment of me submitting to the powers that be, and not trying to control everything, and not being so obsessive. I think sometimes we also want things too much, and we get in our own way.
Attached.
You get too attached, and you put your own expectations on things, and things have to look a certain way, and you almost don't let the magic work and do its thing. And so that was such a beautiful time, because it was happening in front of me, like that scene in Matilda where everything starts moving. That's what it felt like. I was just like Matilda, watching things move around me. And then I signed a deal, and I mean, this is all within a space of a month or 2 months.
Wow.
The song is now playing nationally. I signed a record deal. They're like, we need another song. The next song I'm working on is called Relapse, which would then be called Hardboxing. And I'm busy writing my stuff, because I'm still studying, and I'm writing something about the 27s Club for my media tutorial, which I was really great at, by the way. And then that song kind of comes about, and we put the song out, and it does nothing for like a month. And we're like, the record label's like, oh, we need to start working on another song, because it doesn't look like the song is going to do much.
How does it work? So were you signed and were you getting paid from them, or do you get paid?
No. There was no money. There was no payment. They were signed, but they were like, they're going to be handling distribution, and they're going to be taking this like to a bigger audience. But like, they need the music. So they've heard this one song. And they've now taken on that song to make it even bigger, but like they want the next song now. And so I'm in my house and I'm like, okay, cool. Hotboxing is done. They're like, I think they were putting money behind a music video. And at this time I'm with Rude World Records in Cape Town and David Gresham in Joburg. And it's a kind of like just a whole alliance. You know, we all working together. And we shoot this music video, which was like really dope. My first time on a set, like, I mean, it took forever to do, but it was just iconic. It was amazing. And as soon as the music video comes out, the song blows up. And again, it's like watching the magic happen. And it's like everything you think you know, you don't know. And yeah, the song becomes like one of the biggest tracks in the country. And now I'm getting booked to perform, like, you know, in Joburg and outside of Cape Town. And now I'm catching these flights. And it's just insane because I'm like, every time I'm on the airplane, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the airplane because like people paid me to be here. Like, it's crazy. And at the same time,
do you still feel like that?
I do, but I think that there was a time that I used to be like
A kid in a candy store.
it was proper. And remember, you know, because I almost feel like I was in cosplay. I was pretending to be Jimmy Nevis because I was just a kid who didn't really know much. But a lot of, you know, we get booked for this big show. And now I'm like, oh, what now? I need to get band members. So we get people from the church, you know. So I had all these people from Mitchell's Plain that I used to go and drive and pick up. And we're doing rehearsals in someone's garage in Mitchell's Plain. And it's like, it was just a lot, you know, and a lot of commitment from just beautiful people who saw the vision and who were excited to be a part of something that was taking off. And I mean, for a lot of these guys, I mean, I won't forget there was a time we were flying, and at this point we're getting so used to it. So it's like, I'll see you on the other side of the gate, you know. And this guy was taking his time, and I'm like, why is it taking so long? And I go back to him, and I'm like realizing that he's never been on an airplane before. And so I'm now also a part of other people's first times. And I'm like, okay, cool, follow me. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go here. You put your ticket there. And it was just like, wow, I didn't realize what this was opening itself up to and the way it was impacting other people's lives and that this thing was growing in front of my eyes.
I just want to understand, were you still mixing and recording?
Yeah, I'm in my second year of varsity. Yeah, I'm living in Athlone. I'm living in my house with my parents, and my parents, they used to just let me sing because I mean I'm recording myself, and I think I would go to varsity because I'm still a full-time student, and then like come home, work on this album, wake up early, start doing some vocals from 4 o'clock in the morning till like, I don't know, maybe like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then like shoot off to varsity to go and do my modules and my courses and whatever. And thankfully I had some professors who understood what was kind of happening. There was also some who didn't. But there was one in particular who let me kind of bunk my Friday tutorials because I was doing so many shows on a Friday outside of Cape Town. So I had to leave to fly out and then would come back. And so it was just such a chaotic time, but it was also like a beautiful time of magic. That's how I remembered it. Yeah.
Did you finish your degree?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I got it undergrad in PSOXI, and I loved it. And it's so crazy because it was a 3-year degree. And then I failed my sociology course or something by like 2%. And I had to redo a course, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't have time to be back here. Like, I need to move on. And I'm now busy working on my second album. This is after, like, you know, being SAMA nominated and being able to go to award shows, and it was just a different life I'm living now. And when it was time to come and do that module again, the whole project was about, I think we focused a lot on teenage fathers, and I decided to focus my exercise on teenage fathers within the Cape Flats. And because of the research and everything I had to do around that project, I fell in love with Athlone in a completely different way. And I spent a lot more time in these streets that I would take for granted. And I started to see my community in a very different way, kind of seeing the duality of, yes, this is a dangerous place. Yes, we're not perfect. Yes, there's gangsterism. Yes, there's drugs. But there's also like faith and family and food and like a sense of laughter that you've never heard anywhere else. And through that process, I then wrote the song 7764. And one thing gives rise to the next. And so 7764 comes out, and that becomes like the next big song. And for me, that was just a tribute to my community because of what I was learning and how I was learning it. And when that song came out, I had people like crying and coming up to me, and like grown men telling me they've never seen or heard themselves in a song like this before. Wow. They've never seen like their neighborhood like on TV, you know. I've had people in Joburg being like, oh yes, I've seen Athlone now, like when I'm coming from like the airport or like, you know, like just people like talking to me about things that I just didn't really realize. Or I remember going to Rhodes to perform one time, and somebody showing me a textbook that the lyrics were in, that they were using for something there. I sang that song in Mauritius and people knew all the words, and I'm like, this is like Athlone, you know, code 7764. So I think for me, that was again just another moment of how me following who I am on the inside and seeing how it can like really, how far it can reach people on the outside was just, it's a beautiful thing, you know. That's when you see music start to transform and really go beyond your wildest imagination.
What's the story of your name?
My name, that's so funny. My name, so I was obsessed with Nevis when I was growing up. I used to carry like a flip file full of CD covers, just in my bag all the time. And when I'm bored, I'm just reading them like nonstop. And I think there was a Nelly Furtado album. I think she named her daughter or something Nevis, and I just saw it and I was like, that's a dope ass name. And I think in grade 6 already, I used to write out Nevis. And throughout high school, I mean, I love editing and graphics and designing, painting and that kind of stuff. So I used to like make the word Nevis in different fonts and stuff. And when I actually started varsity in my French class, I told people my name was Nevis. Like, because, you know, it's the first time you're meeting people, they don't know your name. People used to be like, oh, Nevis! I'm like, yo, what's up, man? And when the song Elephant Shoes came out, it was such a quick time of a radio station saying yes and things moving that I was like, I remember looking at it because they wanted to confirm my name, and Nevis just looked a bit lonely on paper. And then I thought that Jimmy just made the most sense because my dad's name is James and my grandfather's name was Jim. And so I'll be Jimmy. So you have the name Nevis, which kind of represents my own path. And then I think you have Jimmy, which represents my family.
That is... Wow.
So that's kind of how that came into being. And it's crazy. I mean, there's so many things that have foreshadowed like things that I just didn't think of at the time. I mean, I went through a time of waiting my grandfather's beret. I think people thought I was just wearing this beret, but it's like actually his beret that he used to wear all the time because he was part of the army, and he used to play his accordion around family gatherings and stuff. So it's just crazy how that you think you're doing something now because it makes sense. And you take a step back and you're like, wow, that was actually always meant to happen,
I think something else that I'm observing is like what we think and what you thought was your norm for someone else is like just complete new world.
Yeah.
And by sharing that authentic, reality, which you hold to be true, it has that power to inspire and to,
Listen, man, it's wild. I used to run away from where I was from, like continuously, because growing up in Athlone, there's people don't need to say it to you. You just know there's a feeling of like get out. That's what's being put on you. You feel it from the pressure of maybe parents in general, the sacrifices that they've made so that you can go to a good school to get out. And I think that I went to schools in Pylands, and I am very aware of the sacrifice my parents made so that we were able to see more. I mean, I had white friends, for the first time going to schools in Pylands. There's actually a funny bit. My parents say I came home one day crying because I didn't understand when my blue eyes and my blonde hair was going to come, But even going to friends' places that side, seeing how they live, seeing it's things I just didn't know at all. And I think that it's crazy because embracing where I'm from has really been the key to a lot of my success. And it's something I owe so much to. And it's crazy. I thank God that I was able to really change my perspective and really appreciate the area and the people and just the community, because there's no place like it, and they have the best food. That's facts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You haven't been to Durban, is it? Have you?
No, I have. Listen, Durban's it's a close contender. But there's something, and I will tell you, I feel like Durban has some really good, they've obviously got their right spices and everything, but I feel like if you're looking for like a failed diet, then, Ashland's kind of the spot.
It's funny that I wouldn't be able to understand what you're saying now if I haven't lived like in the Western Cape for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
To say something like that, like failed diet to someone from...
But listen, what's crazy? There's so many things that's just coming up for me now. Like even just, and I'm not lying. Throughout my entire primary school, maybe even some of my high school experience, I think I was talking in a different accent at school. Like I was not saying the words that I was saying when I was at home, because we were just always trying to accommodate everyone around us. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy. Now, when I speak about failed diet, I'm like, you can go research that word or you can go figure it out if you didn't know what I'm talking about. But back then, I'd be like, no, it's a dirty good meal.
It's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy, yeah.
Something else that fascinates me is the creative process and just creatives in general. I feel like I myself wouldn't say that I'm creative in a traditional sense, but I'm creative in perhaps like in a business sense, or like ideas just come to me and I'm like, whoa, this is so good.
You're like very analytical, like logistically strong.
A bit of that, but also, things that haven't been done before.
Okay.
Like I'm like, we can do this.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. But it just fascinates me, right? And this past, I would say, couple of months, I've been diving into, what is creativity and where does it come from? Speaking to someone like you, what's your creative process for perhaps before you get into writing a song, or do you have this kind of like standard process for creativity?
I think these days I am in a continuous creative process. Like I am, first of all, when it comes to the music side, I'm writing all the time. Like I have tabs on my phone. It's just nonstop. I'm producing all the time. I'm doing that for work, for fun, and for therapy. Like it's my constant being, and like it's one of the things that feel sometimes like a bit of a secret to me, because like I think a lot of people think of it only as music that gets released, but I probably have like thousands of songs that are just sitting on my computer that are there only for the purpose because I needed to get it out of me. But I think that there's definitely ways and means that, I feel like I can tap in deeper. I think also obviously with practice over the years, like whenever I'm in sessions with different people, and I've been in sessions with some incredible people, writers who've worked with Madonna, Justin Bieber, Burna Boy, like just amazing, talented people. And I can proudly say that when I come into a session, I know what I bring. Like I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. So I feel like I'm very well equipped in understanding my creative, I won't say limitations, but like just the flow in which I need to give or take. And I think that's helped me a lot in being able to also not bring too much ego into the creative process, because a lot of the time it's about giving. You are giving and collaborating, and not trying to be the center and, make it, So I think that there's been a lot of ways to look at my creative process over the years.
It's also an art to be able to take your experience that, you go through in life and then turn it into an art.
Yeah.
I think that is, like you said, use the word practice. A lot of people say that, you're born with this creative gene. What's your opinion on that?
100%, man. I was born like this. Like, no, I think that there's definitely, hard work beats talent any other day. I believe, and I think that having a talent is incredible, and it's an incredible starting point. But you need to know how to use it. It's like being born with a superpower. If you can't control it and you don't know how to use it and you don't know how to take care of it, you are missing out on something that can be really bountiful and beautiful. Because there are times that, yes, it's about, I guess, being able to use it for your own benefit, but there's also times that it's about nurturing other people. And I think being able to understand all the sides of what makes your talent truly yours.
Collaboration, of course, is key for artists. Was it challenging to perhaps you have this artist that you want to collaborate with? Was it, at first challenging to, collaborate with them? And over time, how have you found like the synergy to find artists that complement you and your sound?
So collaboration, I think, it's the way of the future. I think collaboration is it's the best way to succeed. It's the most rewarding way to succeed. And I think when people think or they speak to me about collaborating with artists, they often just think other singers and stuff. But for me, I found session musicians that can bring way more artistry than some other artists out there. And I think it's up to people to understand, like, what does collaboration mean to you? Is it you still calling the shots and having people enter at your limitation, or how does this work? And so for me, I think that I found collaboration in so many different parts of the process, from producers to songwriters, even just having people give their input, fans, working with them. I also often tell people to be aware of industries that run parallel to yours. and not being afraid to collaborate with them. So photographers, fashion designers, because these are the people that you most likely are going to see along the way. There's no such thing. I don't think there's a thing as a bad collaboration. I think that there's always something to learn. There's always something to take from it. But I think that, there has been times when you've been in the room with somebody who's just like amazing. And again, the key is to doing what you do best, That's where you're going to shine the most. And that's where, I think that's where the true value comes in, It's about doing something also with the heart of giving, or the art of giving, and being able to trust that what you do is good enough, There's been sessions where maybe you're trying to assimilate, you're trying to do something different, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but the best sessions are always when you can feel relaxed and you're feeling calm and it's coming effortlessly, and you know that you are doing you.
Is this how you also differentiate between something that's authentically you compared to perhaps, another artist that you aspire to be, maybe growing up? It's not actually like them coming through, but it's actually you.
Yeah, and there's a difference between like exploring and just imitating, I think it's always important to have fun and explore and try out different things. But you also got to find the right community to do that with, I think finding the right producers and songwriters, it's also like choosing your family to some extent, If the song is the child, you're going to raise this thing together, and you want to be able to be yourself and not feel... you want to be able to feel comfortable at every step of the way. I mean, I've been in sessions where it's like you are just crying your eyes out. And I mean, there's a song I did called Feel Something. It's one of my famous, most well-loved songs online. And that song, I wrote it in 10 minutes, and it was just a breaking point that happened while talking to one of the producers. And it was just me and him in the studio. And I mean, he's a friend of mine, but it was like it was a moment of like proper surrender. And I remember feeling like I feel safe enough to just do this with him. And instead of feeling judged or anything, I can write and let this out. And I think probably in 30 minutes that song was done, and it's such an honest, beautiful moment. And I think when I think about creating that safe space, it's such an important thing. And there's many different, different songs come with different vibes and energy and whatever. Sometimes, you need that. You need people to be throwing money in studio and whatever. And then other times you need it to be more sensitive and
the key to your success has been having a team around you, but more importantly, like a team that allows you to be you and allows you to do you. Was that also did they have any challenges to find those people that complement you?
We're always finding those people. It's not, you work with some people and then people move on, and that's just the nature of the industry. But I think that it's a big blessing when you find the right ones, because nobody will understand what that feels like except for those people who were in the room when you made it. And I think there's so many things that happen before people hear the song. And I love when you release a song that it becomes something different to somebody else and you perform it and whatever. But I think for the artist, like, the inception is always going to be a very special memory. And it's a big part of the growth factor as well. I think when you experience new things in studio, you start to grow as an artist, and it allows you to play even more within certain arenas. yeah, and it gives you new tactics because at the end of the day, you're also dealing with people. This is it's human interaction, and um, yeah, you're learning exercises or new spaces of exploring vulnerability that you never had before. And I think that's also where the therapy part comes into play. Like it's actually so crazy. I don't know where I'd be without my music, to be honest with you. I think, yeah.
How do you speak about like your music evolving as you mature? How do you feel that your music has changed and evolved over perhaps hotboxing?
Yeah. So I've done 4 albums, and I love albums. I grew up, like I said, I used to carry these flip files. I had 2 big flip files full of album covers. And for me, I'm all about the details. I think it's one of the things I always loved about like a loaded project is that you can miss something. And so there's an opportunity for you to go back and find it. And I'm somebody who still gets excited about details. I love little Easter eggs in songs. My lyrics are always going to be loaded with various meanings, and musically, I mean, we speak about collaboration. I've haven't worked with this many people before. I think in the beginning I was forced to work alone because that's all I had. You use what you have, and so that's what I did. Now I try and involve as many musicians, live artists in studio as I can, and it's great. I get to learn as well. It's also me doing things for the first time. This last album, Things We Don't Talk About, had a lot of live instrumentation. First time recording horns. Also, lyrically, very risky. Getting to play in different arenas. And I think it was also just a space to push me as a producer as well. I think a lot of people often act surprised to find that I produce a lot of my own music, and I've been doing that for such a long time. But it's a very important part of how I grow as an artist. Like the writing, singing, and production is moving at the same pace. So,
do you feel like there's some sort of synergy between the three?
Yeah, absolutely.
You put it together.
Yeah, well, like when last night, I'm alone at home. I'm creating. One thing inspires the next. You're making a production, you're making a beat, you're making whatever. You're playing piano. It's bringing out the vocal. The vocals bring out the lyrics. The lyrics are bringing out, and they move together. I think sometimes people used to ask me a lot, what comes first? Is it the melody or the lyrics? And honestly, it's all kind of happening at the same time. In fact, a lot of my process now is a lot of freestyling, because I feel like my subconscious says a lot more, or it speaks a lot more fluently than it ever has before. And it's a really dope process, like getting to just allow yourself to flow without any judgment and kind of listen back and kind of hear what my subconscious is really saying.
Yeah, the way you describe it, I think that everyone should write. Yeah,
man, it's such an important thing. I mean, I'm not somebody who journals a lot, but one could argue that this is,
the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah,
you just have a melody and
100%,
and some more structure.
Yeah, it's just over a beat.
And of course, you also work on other projects, and one being your foundation. The Blue Collar Foundation. What's the mission that you're on with that?
So the foundation, we started in 2015 with myself and a friend of mine. We did a lot of work with it up until just before COVID, and now we kind of are starting again just to be doing some more collabs and doing some more things. But the whole point of it was just bridging gaps, specifically for, I think, young people in the Western Cape, people like myself, people from similar communities to Athlone. Using formal, informal education. I think I remember not really knowing much about bursaries until it was too late, And I think that wasn't necessarily because of the school I went to, whatever, because I went to a great school. I think it's just because naturally around me, it's just not the top conversation. And so I think sharing more information about bursary opportunities. I mean, we also created a bursary fund that we awarded to various students, which was amazing. Our first recipient, she went into law. She's a prosecutor now. So it's just been such a cool process. I think especially when we started it, it was proper just, humble hands, trying to just make something happen. And over the years, we've managed to do some really cool things in connecting people. But yeah, I think, for me, there's so many ways to inspire communities. And the Blue Collar Foundation is one of them. Another project I'm involved in is it's a documentary, a story about the Laksharama, which is a famous theatre that was in Wynberg. And the theatre was significant for having incredible acts, specifically during apartheid, having a mixed audience. And also just what this space meant to the people of Wynberg and how it brought people together, especially after the 1950s Forced Removal Act. You had a lot of bands. I mean, you had a lot of people, friends who were displaced, and then this theatre kind of became a place where they would find each other again. So I'm part of the team that is telling the story, and we're hoping to put out the documentary next year.
Wow.
But it's such a cool thing because I'm learning so much about my own history. I mean, obviously it's got to do with music and theatre, but it's also got to do with I think people that have come before and recognizing their sacrifices, recognizing their stories. I often think of me being a musician now, and I can't imagine trying to do all of this, against the backdrop of apartheid. And I think we forget that it was just the other day, So it's just really cool. I feel like this is another opportunity where we get to dive into our history as Capetonians and share that with the rest of the country and with the rest of the world.
That's so powerful. And, what you're saying there just also made me realize this thing about perspective. Like, we think that our problems are not to dismiss that the problems that we, challenges that we face, because it's valid, but perspective, just zoom out compared to what our ancestors faced.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And I also think, we live in a very self-indulgent world, given with social media and everything. Everything's always about us. It's always about now. It's always about what's hot right now. And I think that getting to do this project we have some of the last interviews of some people before they passed away, like some musicians. And I think getting to go into their homes, hearing from their family, hearing from real people, it's really something so special. And what's also really great is that, we're looking to archive a lot of these interviews because there's so much of our history that I think has been miscommunicated or that hasn't been documented.
Propaganda.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, especially when it comes to, I think, a lot of colored people, it's just stories. It's not history. You know what I mean? Like, some people have never heard of the Laksharama, and yet there's so much that has happened in this place. And so I feel very privileged to be part of a team that's getting to put this in a very official space. And it's also just a huge tribute, I think, to all the musicians that have kind of led the way for people like myself.
Amazing. Jimmy, this was super cool. Like, one of my favorite interviews.
Yo.
I've had some pretty cool guests on, but I really enjoyed this. This is the last part of the podcast, which is called The Fast Fire.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you these questions, and if you could please answer in a word or a short sentence.
Okay.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Nobody cares about you. Yeah, actually, somebody did tell me that, and it's maybe not the best advice, but it was at the time, it allowed me to just take responsibility for myself in a different way. Um, I think that it forced me also to just learn more than I needed to know. I think a lot of the time, especially when I was younger in the industry, everyone has their roles and you assume that people are looking out for you. And I think getting to understand that not everybody has your best intentions at heart forced me to become educated. It forced me to literally, I had a book that the book is called How to Make It in the South African Music Industry. That's the title. It's a real book. I got that book from my parents, and I studied that book, and I learned about publishing. I learned about the back end. I learned about Samra, Sampra. I learned about taking care of myself as an artist, what it would be like as an independent artist, and it really forced me to get in the know. Yeah.
Wow, that's such a helpful book.
It's such a great book, and it's on. I think there's a PDF version online. That's for free. You can just
What's something you would say to 20-year-old Jimmy right now?
Oh, I would say relax. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Fast forward, looking back, what's something, I mean, there's many things along your journey so far, but perhaps, 30s, 40s, 50s, and looking back, what's something that you would be proud of and the impact that you would like to be like, whoa, that was dope?
The beautiful thing about impact is that it is only something to be recognized at a much later stage. And I think now I get a lot of people that speak to me about my impact from years ago. And I was just living and doing me. You don't plan impact. I don't think that's always how it works.
It's a byproduct.
And so I'm at this time, I get a lot of people that just want to share with me what it meant to see someone like me on TV at the time, or the music I was doing, or ground that I was breaking, whatever. And so I am really proud of that. But I think in the future, I personally would like to see a lot more dialogue between Joburg artists and Cape Town artists. And I think I would like to see just more respect in that regard. I think I do these events called the Hot Box, and we bring a lot of Joburg artists down. And I mean, I don't think we need to look very far to know that I think sometimes our music stations, or even just the way we consume music, is very different according to demographics as well in our country still. And so, there are other artists beyond the 5 songs that you hear on TikTok. And I'd like to think that I'm getting more involved in showing that to people. And R&B music, I think I'd love that to be more of a thing. I mean, we're in Stellenbosch right now. I'd love to see more R&B music decided.
Me and you both.
Yeah. So I think it's just about bringing things together on a more bridging the gap. Yeah.
Advice to young artists who perhaps they're struggling to get signed, or they want to get signed, but perhaps still solo.
I mean, I don't really believe in being signed. I think let's circle back to collaboration. I think don't be scared to work with the people that are in front of you, or the people that are around you. I think a lot of the times everyone's pushing and moving, and you're trying to get this collab, and you're trying to get there, and you're trying to, and I think that there's so much to be made with where you're at. Don't be scared to collaborate with the people that are in various lanes, even if you are ahead of somebody else in your mind. So I guarantee you, give it a couple of years, they might be ahead of you. And then you're going to wish that you collaborated with them. So don't be scared to put yourself in various spaces with different people. You're going to need them. This industry is not just a one-stop shop. You need the designers, you need the photographers, you need the people to shoot your music videos, you need the creative directors. Not everything is you're going to get off ChatGPT. So, I think collaboration is key, and don't be scared to collaborate as a way to earn success.
Yeah, that's good advice. So what else can you share with us? Next steps. Of course, you have your the Hotbox concert event coming up.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm always working on new music. I'm looking to be doing some stuff next year. I think for where I'm at right now, I think when you're younger, you always have the dream. And then when you get close to it, you start to see the lifestyle that comes or that is required for that dream, or the details, that make this machine work. And for me, now I'm very much focused more on the details than the dream, and just trying to make sure that I am staying balanced, and that I'm hanging out with my friends, and that I am catching up with myself, spending time with my family, and almost adjusting the dream a little bit to that. And I think it's great because it allows me to just stay within an updated version of myself, rather than chasing something and then updating around that. And I think musically, for me, I've been working with some amazing people from the UK, and so I'm hoping to do a lot more on that side next year. The Hotbox events are still going to be running. My thing is just about really just sharing the amazing talent from the rest of the country within Cape Town. And obviously still doing shows and that kind of thing in and around. So people can just watch my social media for more deets.
Amazing. Jimmy, thank you. This is super insightful. Thank you for sharing all the stories with me.
Thank you. And, thanks. It's been a minute since I've done an interview like this. So I just feel like my words are all over the place, but you can...
Yeah, I think also what I learned from today is inside out, that authenticity that we spoke about. I think that you are someone that really is authentic, and it shines, it shows in your music and how it shines. So, that's what I learned. And the part about community like that also, I resonate deeply with that. But just thank you for sharing your story with us today.
No, thank you, man. This is great. Shot.
Cool.
Yeah.